In the end of last week's video, I was showing you an issue that we were encountering with the toe on this car. If you look here, this is with us trying to adjust it all the way in. We cannot correct the toe any more than that. I don't know what the issue is. We changed out the bushings. We actually had noticed this arm was a smaller arm on this side, so we put it with an EF specific one. Loosened it up, threw it all the way in just to try to pull the toe in. Didn't fix it. Unsure what's wrong with it. Maybe the trailing arm's bent. Maybe it was on that slammed Civic before and got bent, or possibly a car before that, maybe in an accident. Who knows? I have a spare here, picked up from Manny. We traded some parts for some work. Appreciate that, Manny. Could pull this one off, take a look at it compared to this one, see if maybe we can figure out what's wrong. Hopefully we can get this car up and running and finally give it some test drives today. You know, just by looking at it under here, giving it a quick glance over, it's really hard to tell. I can't see anything that looks out of the ordinary. Obviously, small bend could really affect it. That's hard to notice when it's bolted up to the car. Let's go ahead and pull that. Perfect timing. I tried starting the car this morning and the fuel pump wouldn't kick on. You could hear it, check engine light on and off. It doesn't sound like the fuel pump is getting on or off, so we're gonna just drop it, change it regardless. One of those nice preventative measures, because I don't know if the fuel pump has ever been changed on this vehicle. After getting it removed, set it next to the other one, I can't see anything visibly wrong up top. Obviously, it could be such a minute detail. Everything looks pretty good. I'm gonna flip them over and take a look at the backside. And then flipping them upside down, it looks fine on the arms here. The only thing I noticed was, can you see in here? See how there's like a little gap in between? It does look like it's kind of pulled away when you look at the other one. Look how tight the tolerance is in between, like the little assembly that actually bolts up to the arm itself. Like there is no gap here. The gap on top is a lot smaller, whereas you can see this one, see how much more open it is. So maybe that's just where it's bent a little bit, because if you look at it, that is the front part of this arm where it would be having that wheel stick out. Shit, I don't know, guys. Let's just swap the damn thing. One thing that I was kind of dreading was, I don't know how I'm going to swap the ES bushing to that one. I'm going to see if I can just hammer it out. I figure if I hammer it might push it out. I'm afraid I might damage it a little bit. I don't know. Let me see if I can figure it out and let you know when I'm done. I was going to attempt to start getting this out, but you know, looking at it, like it looks obvious right there. I think that's exactly what the issue is. Like it is so, it's so much bigger, the gap, compared to the other one. God, I hope that fixes it. Oh, come on, baby. Almost, there we go. Cool. That wasn't too hard. This one's always the tricky part. Ah, there we go. Oh, a little more. Perfect. What's really cool is when I was going to install these, of course I was going to bust out my old sleeved method with installing bushings and everything, but I forgot I had bought a wheel bearing kit. So now I can, maybe this big ass one. This one. Yeah, I think this will work. Just kind of put this on one side. Maybe this side will work really well. Let me flip it over. Oh yeah, that's perfect. It's more than enough room for the bushing to spread in when little lips. So I'm just gonna try to use this, see if I can figure it out. I had to stop the video for a second because I don't know if it didn't seem like there was any like lithium grease. Maybe it was old, kind of rubbed out. I don't really know. So we're gonna of course reapply some. This is by far one of the worst substances to mess around with. It's so dirty and sticky and just makes a huge mess. But it's good for these energy suspension bushings. Oh yeah. Sorry if my head's in the way. Just trying to figure this thing out. Alright. One of the tricks I've learned is to get these little edges fed in. Once you have it started, just a hair, and then it should go just like that. Pull these out. Easy. I didn't have to hold that thing there. Yeah, that's sweet. Oh man, that was way easier than I thought, especially with the tools. Let's get this thing put on. You know, I'm so glad I bought this. It's the first time I've had a chance to use it, and I think it's going to eliminate the need for this anymore. This is an inexpensive way to do so, but if you look, the prices of these kits have dropped considerably. I think I only paid like $50 or $60 for it. And that made this a breeze compared to using this. And I imagine for the wheel bearings, it's gonna be a lot easier pressing them and putting them in also. So consider getting one of those for yourself, guys, if you're outside working on your cars pretty frequently. So I'm gonna throw it on and I'll change out the caliper. I'll change out the wheel bearing when it's on the car. It's a little easier to get to all those bolts when it's bolted up and something holding it in place. I got the new trailing arm on. Before I start the gas tank, I wanted to take a look, and just with that alone, you can see already, look how much better it is. It looks like it's a little in because that's where I tightened up the bolt for the compensator arm, the inner bolt. But I think that was exactly my problem. We'll see when I get it lowered to the ground. The gas tank came down with no issues. One thing I'm gonna try that I've never used before is the Delphi drop-in replacement unit. I tried one on my CRV, which makes the job very, very easy. I figured I'd test one out on this particular setup. So the pump was changed at some point. Zip tie around the pump, butt connector on the wiring, some tape on the wiring. Excited about the new pump. Has all the wiring to the chassis, has a gasket. Should be a relatively quick install. See if we can get this tank thrown back up on the car and get it started. The pump and the new wiring fit perfectly. I had no issues. Pump was a success, super easy install. No weird lines, no stripped fittings. Thank God. That 14mm fitting underneath there, which connects the line to the chassis line, is always the one that gives issues if it does. Check it out though, looks like so much better. Of course, when it gets aligned, they'll be able to fix it where it needs to be. But I think we went ahead and fixed that issue on that trailing arm. Let's see if we can get, put the battery on. Let's listen for the pump. Yep, I could hear it. Let's try to start it. Now after getting these off, this is that driver's side one, the one that was bent. This is the passenger side off that same DA that the other one was removed from. This one should be okay. What I want to do is remove the hub assemblies. I was watching VTech Academy's video. Brian from Hassport was talking about how the DA arms basically push the wheels out further, that you're losing a little bit of clearance on the cars. Now, look at my Y49. This is the original drum brake setup. 15x7 plus 35 wheel, 205/50 tire. The camber is probably pulled in a little bit. This car's never been aligned, so I'm not sure exactly where it sits at. But when you look at the ones with the DA arms, same side. Now the same wheel, 15x7 plus 35. Well, not the same wheel, but the same specs. 205/50 tire. It's a little bit different tire, the Yokohama S-Drive, but should be similar in sizing. Look how much farther it's out. It actually sticks out outside of the fender, and this is a -2.5 camber when I had this aligned. So what he was saying is that you can take off the hub assemblies and essentially put these onto the drum trailing arms by removing the drum setup. I'm gonna see if we can actually do that. I don't know if it's gonna fit. Regardless, it's a perfect opportunity for me. I've been meaning to get these. These are 9091 CRX SI specific rear trailing arms. I've had them for quite a while. Never had the opportunity to throw them on, but now it's a perfect chance. I have the lines already. I had to buy a new caliper. That one was sticking, and I used it on the Rune 49 CRX. Of course, the new wheel hubs. I'm gonna put on some, I like the energy suspension bushings for just chill mode cars, daily drivers, and some power stop brake pads and a set of cross-drilled and slotted rotors. I just like the way those look because I have them on the front of this car already. So I'm gonna throw those on really quickly, and then we'll start disassembling the rear discs and the rear drums and see if we can possibly get that to fit. And if that works, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can swap the trailing arm over to the supercharged hatchback and see if it does bring that wheel in a little bit closer. So I got the passenger side finished up, rear disc brakes installed. I'm excited because in doing this video, this car now has all the bushings replaced. I did the prothane compensator arms, energy suspension, rear trailing arms. It already had a Skunk 2 camber kit, Skunk 2 coilovers, Tokiko Blues with extended top hats. Has a hard race with the hard rubber. Bushings for the lower control arm. I added the stainless steel lines. I like how these brand new calipers look. They got this at AutoZone, lifetime warranty. I may have to replace the other side now because it's gonna look nasty. That one's all crusty looking, but let's check out these rear trailing arms and see what we can do with the drums. Now see if we can get both these pulled apart. After getting the hub nut removed, look at the hole here. It is no longer a perfect circle. It's a very irregular shape. It looks like it's been pulled. I'm not sure if it was pulled this way or that way. The one on the CRX trailing arm is still a perfect circle there. Let's see if we can get these last 4 torque bolts removed and try to swap this piece over. Alright, I got both completely disassembled. This is the DA. Obviously, that hole in the center, initially that's the problem with this one. Kind of looks weird right here. It is kind of lifted. That was creating a little gap that we were talking about earlier in the video. I can't tell if right there. But if you look at the orientation, where the hub assembly bolts up, it looks exactly the same. So you would need, of course, the DA brake cables if you're putting it on like a hatch or anything but a CRX basically. If you're putting it on a CRX, you'll need the CRXi specific cables because they're shorter. Now the DA cables work, and it's just a little bit extra room. We have done so on Manny's car. But let's throw this on there, see how it lines up. And it fit on perfectly, guys. I didn't put the nut on yet. Only because I'm gonna pull them back off and I will throw some thread locker on them and put them on the required torque spec. I don't know what that is, that's why I just want to see if it fits. But I want to make sure I'm fitting it. That space in between, look how close it is on the front, on the bottom there. I think it'll be perfectly fine on this trailing arm. It's kind of neat that this works. You'll be able to gain some of that lost width back, bring the tire back in a little bit under the fender. So now I really want to test it and see how it looks. Put this one on the driver's side. I just need to get some sort of bushing here. I don't know which one I'll use. Obviously the DA ones won't fit now. And then put this on the driver's side, and then we can kind of see how the driver's side fits compared to the passenger side with the tire hat was sticking out. I'll skip to that. I'm not going to show you and bore you with me taking everything off and doing it again. I'm going to get it installed and we'll check out the differences. One thing I'd like to share before I install them is that these were the brake line brackets from the DA trailing arm. It's the one that is deformed. This is the front one. You can see it fits right here. The same provisions are on the drum trailing arm, and same with that bracket that I pulled off. This bracket attaches right here. It also has the holes right here for this also, so you can retain those original brackets as well. Okay, and another tip, be careful when getting these out. Look at this one. This one was giving me such a hard time. It was being super pesky. It was the last one. I went ahead and pulled the whole drum assembly apart. And what I did there, I was using my propane torch. I just heated it up. I checked the temperature using my digital thermometer. Probably still is pretty warm. I didn't have 216, but it was like 400 degrees. That seemed to loosen up the Loctite, and I was able to just grab it and spin it off. So be really careful. These things are on there. They're on there pretty tough, and I don't think they're meant to be changed out frequently. I think it'd be smarter just having a regular 6-point bolt in there. But another small tip: be careful on those guys. One thing I had to do, I'm not sure if that'll be the same with the passenger side. The bracket for the first part of the brake line, when I first put the caliper on, I couldn't get the caliper bolt on down here because this part of the caliper was rubbing on the brake line. So I removed the brake line, took a hammer and just bent it back this way, and now there's zero clearance issues there. The only thing that doesn't look like it works, maybe unless I open up that hole a little bit, is that little cover. Like when I line it up with the back, I tried putting it on right now. You see right there where it's at? I would actually need to slide it down to there. So it's off considerably. I'm just gonna leave it off. I've run these without these covers before. It's not really a huge deal there. Okay, so the DA one is removed off the car. Let's check it out. First, let's visit the passenger side again. This one is still the DA. Looking from the top, sticks out maybe like ½ inch. I think that's what Brian from Hasbro was saying, like ½ inch to 3/4 inch. Let's look from the rear profile. Yeah, you can see how it sticks out a little bit further. And here's the passenger side. It does stick in further, which is great. I gained a little bit of clearance back if I ever want to go with wider wheels, but probably not going to do so. Just wanted to test it out so that way I know for future reference, future knowledge. It does sit a little bit better in there now. Less chance of rubbing. Now if you're curious, this car actually was aligned. You'll see it in a later video. I had the car aligned when I had the DA arms on there, and then I discovered that I wanted to do the rear discs on the CRX. So the alignment is set. I did not touch the compensator arm, nor did I touch the camber kit. Which basically bolted it back up, and I'm gonna do the same to the other side, but you could tell how much different it looks there. And for me, you know, it's not a big deal. I think it was kind of neat to learn this. I hope I didn't bore you guys with all this technical rear disc brake info today. I just was more about learning it for myself. And it's cool because, you know, the one that we pulled off of here, that bent one, that's actually the assembly that was on the bent trailing arms. We were able to salvage it by putting it onto that drum trailing arm from the CRX, and now still have a good set of DA ones, which I can always use them like that if I want to, or if we feel the need, we can just swap these over to a drum set as well. I'm also really excited that the Y49 now has all the suspension is now taken care of. The front I had already finished, has new bearings, bushings, everything there. Same with the back. Just excited that this car is now functionally sound in terms of the suspension. The driver's side drum, every time I hit the brakes, it had been scratchy, and I think the shoes, the brake shoes had been worn down. So great to be able to squeeze that in while also getting work done on this car at the same time. If you're curious, the old drums, I went ahead and removed the whole assembly, and I bolted up that hub assembly to the bent DA ones. One thing I noticed that I'd failed to notice earlier is look how this part of the trailing arm had been rubbing on the body of the car. So I bolted those on. It's kind of loose. I just put this lug nut on here to hold that on there when I put a wheel or like a steely on there. What I'm going to do with these, great alternative instead of just tossing them, is when I park cars out, I have this other Integra here that we're going to part out. That way I can throw it on the rear and keep the rear disc brakes off of this car while utilizing those and still being able to keep that thing rolling. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Got some more footage next week. Gonna get this car on the road, do a little bit of driving footage, and get it one step closer to be able to have some fun with it. We'll see you guys next week.